Hey guys, today we're going to be seeing if AI is able to make a successful Scratch game and not just one of these generic platformers that are all over trending and somehow get 674,000 views.
Okay, so there are some rules. So, our first prompt I'm going to type in, I'm doing a challenge for a YouTube video where you have to make a Scratch game that you think can be as simple or complex as you want, but I'm not allowed to make any decisions. The only things I'm allowed to do are insert the code, images, and sounds provided by the AI. The AI has to make all design choices, but I am allowed to ask it if something is the way that it wants it. All images should be generated in a PNG or SVG format, and if it's an SVG, then give me a file for it to copy and paste. The AI will have to decide when the game is finished and when to add more to it. Alright, so let's type this in, see what it says first. Title is Lane Rush Space Runner. For idea, you control a spaceship that can move between 3 lanes to avoid asteroids and collect stars. The game speeds up over time. You get points for surviving and extra points for collecting stars. When you crash, you see a game over screen with your score and a player get button. Alright, so okay, it looks like it's giving us all of our SVG files. So we're going to copy these. Alright, so the first part we need is a player ship. Let's upload the SVG file. Alright, so this is the spaceship is made. Alright, let's make a second sprite up for the asteroid. Alright, this actually looks pretty good. Let's add the star sprite. Background sprite. Nice little night sky. Score label sprite. Okay. Game over panel. Play again button. See what that looks like. Okay, very simple. And it wants title text. Okay, set background sprite to cover the whole stage. Place it 0, 0, 0. Alright, create these variables for all sprites. Score, game speed, game state, lane x left, lane x middle, lane x right. Alright, now it looks like it's wanting us to reset all the variables. Alright, now we need to code the player ship. Set size to around 60%, negative 110. Create a variable for this sprite only, current lane. For the sprite only. Alright, now it's wanting us to add the movement controls. And then it wants us to do the same thing for when the left arrow key is pressed, except this should be if it's greater than 1, change it by -1. Alright, now we're going to add some basic collision detection with the asteroids. Alright, the asteroid should be set to about 60% size. It wants us to make a local variable for this sprite only, named lane. Alright, star will need to be about 50% in size. We need to make another variable named lane. Okay, and then we need to take the lane positioning code from the asteroid and put that in here. Alright, now we're going to make the game speed increase. Alright, for the score label, we want to place it at negative 190 and 150. Alright, and then it wants us to show the score variable, make it a large readout, and then place it near there. game over panel needs to be at 0, 0, and hidden. We want to make a variable for this sprite only called final score text. It wants us to use the lose sound from the Scratch sound library. That's the one that sounds like this. Alright, the play again button should be at 0, -60, and initially hidden. Then on the stage, we're going to say when I receive restart. Then on the player ship, and then when I receive restart, delete this clone about the star and the asteroid. And for the game over panel, when I receive restart, hide, and the same thing for the play again button. Alright, place title text at 0, 80. Create a new sprite for a tap to start text using Scratch's text tool. Name it tap to start text, press space to start. Alright, so let's make that tap to start. And it wants us to put it at 0, 0. Alright, now on the stage, we're going to make it so you can actually start the game. We're going to say, when space key pressed, game state equals menu, set game state to play, broadcast, start game. Then in the title text, when green flag clicked, show forever if game state equals menu, show, else hide. The exact same code on tap to start. Then in the green flag script before the forever, that's right here, it says to change the show to a hide. And we're going to duplicate this code and change restart to start game. Okay, so apparently this is the game that it's wanting us to make. Let's try it. Press space to start. Okay, I can't see the ship or the asteroids because the background is covering them up. See the ship or the asteroids/stars because the background sprite is covering them up. And also right here, the score is halfway cut off. The score text is halfway cut off in the corner of the screen. Alright, let's see what it has to say about this. Okay, no click sound, use button click instead. There's no button click sound either, so we're just going to have to not use that sound. Alright, and then in the background sprite, we have to add when green flag clicked. Go to back layer. And then it wants us to put the score label at -145, 150. With this right next to it. There. Okay. Let's try it again now. Line rush, space runner, press space to start. Alright, so there's our ship. Oh, there we go. Let's try playing again. Okay, the asteroids are coming down. Nothing is disappearing because they can't get all the way down to -2. The asteroids and stars aren't disappearing when they hit the bottom because Scratch only lets them get down to -170. not less than negative 200. Alright, it wants us to change the despawn threshold to negative 160. Okay, so we're going to change this to negative 160. And the same thing in the star. Alright, let's try this again. Press space to start. Okay, the asteroids and the stars do both actually disappear now. Alright, we have a fully functioning game. It wants us to add anything else to it. Everything works. Is the game done, or are there other things you are wanting to add? It wants to add one more feature pack. Alright, so let's see. It wants to add a screen shake on crash, a star collection animation, a speed trail behind the ship, and a high score system. Alright, ready for the feature pack. Okay, for the screen shake, it's wanting us to make the stage move, but that can't happen. So I'm gonna say that. The screen shake will not work because you cannot move the stage. Alright, for now let's move on to the star collection animation. Let's try that out. Right, there's a star. Alright, it pops upward like that. Alright, seems good for now. Alright, it's wanting us to draw the rectangle, but it's saying to set the transparency to 60, which we cannot do in Scratch. But we can make the sprite for now, name it trail, set its size to 50. Just drawing a big rectangle for now to make it let me change the size. Alright, high score system. Let's create a new variable for all sprites named high score. Now on the backdrop, when green flag clicked, if high score is less than 1, set high score to 0. When I receive crash, if score is greater than high score, set high score to score. Then it wants us to show that. Okay, it says the feature pack is complete, but there are a few errors. Let's send the errors. Alright, it wants us to replace the screen shake with a red flash. And we're going to use the background sprite to do that. So it wants us to make a custom block called flash red. Flash red. It wants us to repeat 4. Set color effect to 0. Wait 0.03 seconds. Set color effect to 50. Then wait another 0.03. And then set it back to 0. Then when I receive crash, flash red. Alright, now it gave us the SVG for the trail. Let's upload the costume. Looks like just a thin rectangle. Alright, let's try the game now that we have all of our new features added. Let's press space. Alright, you can see we have our trail. Let's get a star. You can see the pop effect. And there we go, that was the red. Let's just zero it down. Alright. Alright, okay, I added everything in. Is there anything else you want to add, or is the game done? Now I've noticed the AI will keep asking you to talk to it indefinitely, so I don't think it's ever going to say, yes, the game is done. So, I'm going to say that it's limited to 3 feature packs, because that seems fair. It gives it enough room to add in the stuff that it wants, but it doesn't just go on forever. So I'm going to say I'm limiting you to 3 feature packs, because I know otherwise you will indefinitely want to add new features. Alright, let's see what it has to say. Alright. Yep, see, I absolutely would keep evolving this thing forever. So, he's going to be intentional. We will add feature pack 2 and 3. Okay. So, feature pack 2, gameplay depth and satisfaction. This pack will focus on making the game feel more dynamic and rewarding without adding complexity. Here's what he's adding: a golden star, perfect dodge bonus, smooth lane switch animation, and dynamic background scrolling. Alright, ready for pack 2. Alright, let's start by making the golden star. It gave us the SVG file. Let's add the golden star sprite. Set size to 55%. Alright, let's test out this golden star. Alright, that's a normal star. There's a golden star. Alright, and that added 100 points. Up next is the perfect dodge bonus. The perfect dodge happens when the asteroid is in the same layer as the player, it passes in within 40 pixels of the ship, and it does not touch the player. This will give plus 10 points and a floating plus 10 text. Alright, we want to create a new sprite named Dodge Text. Here's the SVG. Dodge Text. And set the size to 70%. Now we need to add some code to the asteroid's movement loop. Alright, now for the Dodge Text code. Alright, let's test the perfect dodge animation. Alright, it didn't appear to work there. Yeah, it's seeming like you need to be way too close to the asteroids for it to be a perfect dodge, because it is not happening at all for me. And there seems to be a little bit of a code error with the lane switch animation, because repeating a glide 5 times will not change anything. We can add the scrolling background though, so we need to duplicate the background sprite, name one of them BG1 and the other BG2. BG1 at 00 and BG2 at 0360. Then it wants BG1 at 00, BG2 at 0360. Alright, and now that should work with the scrolling background. Oh, sorry, I forgot to add the code in the other sprite. Let me change that. Alright, there we go. Now it should actually work. There you go, you can see 2 backdrops. Well, I'm not sure why one is a different color than the other though. Okay. Perfect dodge distance is too small. Now let's make it 120 pixels. Okay. So change this to 120. Let's test that out. Alright, it seems like it's going way too much. So you're able to get the perfect dodge more than once per asteroid, which is a problem. Alright, we're gonna change the glide system to glide 0.08 seconds to target lane negative 110. So let's go to the player ship. Alright, what we need to do for that is get rid of all of these blocks, replace them with the glide, lane X left. Let's duplicate that into here, but make it middle and right. And then let's do the same thing for the left arrow key. Now you should be gliding properly. There we go. So we have a smooth lane change animation. Right now I'm just going to tell it about the perfect dodge error. Alright, each asteroid can only trigger one perfect dodge. So we need to add a local variable named dodged already. And then when I started the clone, set dodged already to 0. We need to wrap this if statement with if dodged already equals 0. And then when it broadcasts perfect dodge, set dodged already to 1. This should make it so that you can only get one perfect dodge per asteroid. Alright, it seems to work. Now that everything works, we're ready for feature pack 3. Polish personality in replay value. We're gonna add hyper mode, temporary speed boost and visual effect, an unlockable ship skin earned by reaching a high score, a title screen animation, a vignette overlay, subtle dark edges for visual depth, and a pause system. Alright, hyper mode. Temporary speed boost. Hyper mode triggers when the player collects 3 stars in a row without crashing. So add a variable for all sprites called star streak. Alright, now in the stars touching ship block, we can add change star streak by 1. And then we can say if star streak equals 3, broadcast hyper mode. And in the stage, when I receive crash, set star streak to 0. Alright, now we need to actually add hyper mode. Now we need to add a hyper flash sprite. Alright, let's upload the costume. Alright, looks like it's just a blue transparent background. Alright, now let's test the hyper mode. Alright, let's see, collect a star, 2 stars, and 3 stars. We get the flash, we go fast for 3 seconds, and then it slows back down. Alright, that's pretty cool. Alright, now let's add the unlockable ship skin, because players love unlockables. Step 1, add a new costume to player ship. Name the costume blue ship. But the ship is already blue, so I'm not too sure what this is going to be. Okay, that is a purple ship, not a blue ship. So I'm just going to change the name of the costume because AI is stupid and doesn't know its colors. Alright, add a variable skin unlocked. Now receive crash. If score is greater than 1500, set skin unlock to 1. Then in the player thing, when I receive start game, if skin unlocked equals 1, switch costume to purple ship, I'll switch costume to player ship. Okay, yeah, this is actually the part I'm just going to cheat it in. Set score to 1600. Broadcast crash. Alright. If we play again. There we go, we have the purple ship now. Something small, but that's what the AI wanted, so. Okay, up next is a title screen animation. In the title text sprite, it wants me to add this code. When green flag clicked, repeat until game state equals play. Change y by 2. Wait 0.05 seconds. Change y by -2. Oh. It's meant to be a gentle bobbing animation, but that is not a gentle bobbing animation. So, I'm not sure what to think about that. Alright, let's just go on and add the net overlay. And all the code is when green flag clicked, go to front layer, show, set ghost effect to 0. And there it just adds like the dark edges around the corners. Pretty subtle. Next up is a pause system. And then in the stage, when P key pressed, paused equals 0, set pause to 1, else set pause to 0. And then it wants us to make a pause text sprite. Alright, so then we can see the only problem is that we're still getting score and stuff is still spawning while it's paused. Alright, so let's tell it about our two problems. The title screen animation is not a gentle bob. It is very rough. When paused, you still gain score and asteroids and stars are still spawning. Alright, it's wanting us to redo the title screen. Alright, now fix to pause system not actually pausing gameplay. Alright, so it's wanting us to turn this into an and then also say if pause equals 0. Alright, and then we need to do the same thing in the asteroids and stars. Alright, the title screen animation looks much better now. Now let's see. Pause does actually stop the stars and asteroids from spawning. So now this game is technically finished because I said that I would not let the AI add any more feature packs than 3. So there is one more thing we can do though. We are going to have the AI make a thumbnail and instructions. Looks like it generated a very big SVG file for the thumbnail. I'm just going to tell it you can't use bullets or bold text in the Scratch instructions. You can only use plain text and emojis. Alright, let's copy all the instructions. And now I am going to put in the notes and credits. This game was made entirely with Microsoft Copilot AI. This game was made for a challenge in a YouTube video I'm making. I will post the link to the video right here once it's uploaded. Now guys, I will put the link to this project in the description of the video so you can play it, and I'm going to be linking this entire chat that I had with Copilot so that you can see that this was genuinely made with AI and this video is not fake. Alright, now I am going to share this project, and there we go. Now overall, I think that this game was a success. It has proved that AI is capable of making a fully functional game in Scratch, and not just a generic platformer like all of the games trending. Now, if you watch this video the whole way through, thank you for staying around. I know this was a long one, but if you want to see more videos like this one, like, subscribe, do all those other things that YouTubers tell you to do, or not. I honestly don't care about the numbers. I do YouTube not to get popular. So, thanks for watching, and bye. See you in the next video.